Out of 3 fire descendants in the game, I have only tried 2 of them. One of them has been one of the best and fastest boss killers in the game. On the other hand, the other one is rarely seen in the endgame content. With these 2 scenarios, I don't even have to name the descendants, but anyone who's been playing the game can already tell which is who. That said, the developers have talked about making it possible for players to enjoy build varieties. How is this going for Blair and Lepic with the recent introduction of zero crit modules? Lepic and Blair have always been crit descendants as far as I can remember. This begs the questions. Why would the developers introduce the fire amplification module and dimension amplification modules? What is it that they're trying to tell us? Unless you try to use these new modules on Lepic and Blair, you would not know whether or not they are even worth using. My name is Wes and I tried both versions of Blair non-crit and crit builds, and I'm here to tell you what I think. Now, way before they introduced the non-crit modules, I have already been enjoying using Blair crit builds because that was the only option we had. So what interest would anyone have in investing in non-crit builds for Blair? Well, I invested in Blair non-crit build because I wanted to test for myself and see how it works. And with my experiment, after which I put out a video not too long ago, I showed that it can work. I could kill bosses with the non-crit Blair build. I could solo the 400% infiltration with no issues. But I didn't do all of that hoping to move the needle as far as what players would think about Blair in particular. Blair is already not a popular descendant. And unless you are a Blair enjoyer, there would be no interest in investing in the firemen, especially when you can have descendants like Freyna and Bonnie that can do things like the 400% infiltration 10 times better. Whether you use the non-crit or crit build for Blair, in my experience, Blair's crit build is superior to the non-crit build because you can clear 400% infiltration a lot faster. However, with the non-crit build, you have more survivability because the combination of the non-crit modules open up some slots for more survivability. At least that was my experience, and for me personally, I like to see the crit numbers better than the non-crit numbers. Now here's what I use for the non-crit build. And here's what I use for the crit build. I use those for farming 400% infiltration. There's nothing complicated here with Blair. You spam your first skill, and your fourth skill, you create some flame zones. You retrieve 5 flame zones at a time with your second skill. This gives you MP back and skill power modifier for some more damage. Rinse, repeat, that is Blair in a nutshell. Here's the rotation that I just described. Normally, I would use my first ability, which is this one, and then I will follow with the fourth ability, which is the big boom, and then I would retrieve to get MP, and then also get the buff. And then I proceed to rinse and repeat. Now, a lot of time, if I'm fighting beefy enemies, I would start with my fourth ability. This would instantly give you more flame zones, and then I can follow up because the more flame zones that you have on the ground, when you retrieve, you get more MP. And rinse and repeat. So it's a matter of choice, but very simple. Now, here's how the critical hit rate works for Blair. We are using the Slayer set. This is not going to affect the critical hit rate, but you're going to have a bigger skill damage. So if we go to the info sheet, you can see that the skill critical hit rate is at 43.08%. And you can see the skill power is 11, 7, 2, 4, 6, 2. That's that. So if we're gonna go and do our skill, we're gonna do this too. So we're gonna trying to get more flame zone. So now look at the flame zone going up. So if we go to the info sheet, you can see that we have max. But watch the number for the hit rate. It's going down. This is based on the number of flame zone that you have on the ground. So it went back to 43% as soon as you don't have any more flame zones on the ground. But if you look at Blair's passive, you can see that with the Pitmaster passive, enemy is burning, you get the benefit. And on the right side, for the skill critical hit damage, you got a default of 10%. And you also have a 5% for the hit rate. And then this is based on the number of flame zones that you have available. That's how you see the skill critical hit rate went up when you have more flame zone on the ground. So the max is 7. So to keep this up, you need to have at least the 7 for the stacks to get the 100%. Once it goes down, then the crit rate start going down as well. So that's how this works when it comes to the crit rate. That's for using the Slayer set. So we're gonna use the regular component and show you what the difference is. Now we are using regular component, as you can see. So if we go to the info sheet, you can see same thing for the skill critical hit rate is 43%. And you can look at the numbers and see what's changed. Now we're gonna have different skill costs because of the Slayer set, but that does not affect the skill critical hit rate. And if we look at Pitmaster again, as a reminder, same thing, this is not going to change. You're going to have the same benefit no matter which set that you are using when it comes to components. So if we do our damage again, now if we go to the info sheet, you still get the max 100%. That's why I was saying that this does not affect your skill critical hit rate. And it's going to go down just like it did for the Slayer set as long as your flame zone is going down, and it's going back to normal once you don't have any more flame zone on the ground. So that's how this works. You will not have that benefit if you use the non-crit build, because the modules take away the crit damage and the crit rate, and you are using white numbers. Now, while this kill build can kill bosses, Blair's gun build with the Transcendent module backdraft is the way to go, in my opinion. And it takes less effort to put together. All of that said, the idea that there's only one way to play a character is simply not up for me or anyone else to decide. It's up to each individual player to decide. I can only suggest that you try something that I think is fine, but I can never tell you this is the way. No matter how you look at it, in the current state of the game, Blair still needs some more buff in order to compete with some of the other descendants. And the new modules did not accomplish that, in my opinion. Now, I already grinded, acquired, and played all the meta descendants in this game. So when a different option comes along for characters like Blair, I like to give it a try, just so I can see for myself. Blair, in my opinion, is one of the underdog descendants. So it does not hurt to try something different. And at the end of the day, you'll never know if you don't try. Again, when it comes to the crit and non-crit build, the crit build is going to win every time as it stands right now, because you can clear contents a lot faster in my experiment with these two builds. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.